headlining that card. Along with the coming will be Tanya Evinger, Cindy Dandois, and then we also want to announce that we have, it will be Vanessa Porto versus Roxanne Modafferi as well. Okay, tickets go on sale on Wednesday at 10 a.m. All the information will be on the website, so you'll be able to follow along with that. We will announce the full card this next week, so just let me tell you, it is stacked top to bottom. I mean, that card is really good. So, not that this one wasn't, but this one's finished. So now we're talking about how good that one's going to be. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to everybody else because I know you guys are tired and long night fights, right? We'll take some questions.
I think we all kind of thought that was going to be back and forth. Was there, at what point did you kind of figure out I'm pretty much in control of this fight and what was going to be the
I felt like I was in control immediately. I knew that I needed to go out there and make a statement and stand my ground because I knew that she was super aggressive. I felt early on that I was in control and that I could pretty much dictate what I wanted to do.
And then also we learned during the fight that Natalia retired, and do you have any words about that at all?
You know what? It's an honor to fight such a warrior, and I feel honored every time I'm able to step in the Invicta cage with such a great organization and Shannon, and I'm glad that I was able to compete with her before she retired. Thanks.
Hi, my question is for Raquel. You took so much damage early on in the fight. What exactly were you thinking about in your corner in between rounds, and what were your coaches sort of telling you?
I feel like I can take a punch. It didn't really faze me. I think that sometimes I'm a slow starter, and that's shown a lot in my previous fights, but I think what I've worked on over the last 2.5 years since you guys saw me is just rounding out my game, and that's my mental game, my ground game, everything. So I was really calm. To be able to come back from a beating like that in the first round, I think that says a lot about the changes that I've made, and my head was straight. That even I could hear my dad and my other corner, they were like yelling like listen. I'm like, Dad, I'm trying to gather myself a little bit, but I was fine. She was hitting me with some hard punches, but I was able to keep my cool.
My next question was for Jody. When you were fighting and you have an opponent who's so aggressive, was your whole idea just to be more aggressive than her, or is that something that you sort of decided to do once you got started?
That's interesting because through game planning, I have the best coaches in the world with Mike Winklejohn and Greg Jackson and Brandon Gibson and Keith Jardine. We kind of put our heads together and made a good game plan. It's hard not to try to meet aggression with aggression, but that's not always the answer. You got to fight smart, and I feel like I was able to do that. Fighting with aggression and fighting with control, I felt like I just needed to fight with control and pick my shots and stand my ground, and I felt like I did that early on, and that's what was to take that right from the beginning was the plan.
This question is for Jody. Jody, you mentioned that you wanted to experiment with some different things in this fight. Do you feel like you were able to do that?
Yeah, I did. Every time that you get in the cage, you want to learn something new about yourself or evolve as a fighter, because all these females that we have in this great organization are getting better every single day. So if you're not getting better, you're going to get left behind. So I try to take down, like the boxer, right, is trying to evolve her game and find this takedown and land it. And I was like, oh, so that's what it's about. So that's kind of cool. That was kind of fun. And I'm excited to just learn and start evolving. I feel like I'm just on this fast track of bettering myself as a fighter, and I'm really excited.
You mentioned control, too, being one of the things that you felt during this fight. Was that something you've been planning to work on as well?
Yes. I believe that my control and my focus go hand in hand, and I've really been trying to work on my focus and control. And I knew that the second you lose control against somebody that's very aggressive, sometimes that's a downward spiral that you can't get out of. So I knew that was a very dangerous thing to lose control of here in this fight against her, and I felt like I was able to stand my ground on that. Thank you.
All right, next question for Raquel. So you took this fight on fairly short notice. How do you prepare for a fight with a veteran like Caitlin Young?
My whole thing is, like, I'm always training, you know, so you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. That's how I feel. So, but taking, you know, a fight against Caitlin, I knew that it was going to be tough, but I kind of just had my trainers and my training partners, you know, just figure out what are the few things I needed to watch out for, and that's all we did for the last 8 days. We just drilled that, controlled my weight. You know, morning and night we just went in and drilled. That's all we did was drill and drill and drill, and apparently it was not what she was going to do, so, you know, I expected her to throw more kicks, and, you know, I planned to catch the kicks, take her down, but, you know, she made it tough for me in the first round. I was just trying to figure out, like, crap, how am I going to close the distance to take her down, or even just, you know, closing the distance to try and strike. So, I mean, first round was a little tough, but I kind of figured it out after that.
This question is for Shannon. What are your thoughts on the new talent that debuted tonight, not only as a pro, but for Invicta as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what.
What are your thoughts on the new talent that debuted tonight, not only as a pro, like they debuted as a pro, but also they debuted at Invicta as well? It's the first time fighting for Invicta. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it was amazing. I mean, some of those first fights with some of the younger girls that are coming in, wow, right? Those were, I mean, they kicked the night off and certainly set the pace for the evening. So I think they did an amazing job. You know, I was quite impressed with, I won't name names because then I got to name them all. I always real particular about that, but very impressed with each and every one of them, to be honest with you. Actually, everybody that competed on our card for the first time tonight did amazing jobs, as well as the veterans of it. So no complaints. I'm very proud of each and every one of them. You know, I really want to commend Raquel for stepping in like she did. You know, it's as a promoter and a matchmaker, when you have, you know, opponents that fall off the card, and especially, you know, it's just a short window of time to fill that, to have athletes like that that step up and are prepared and ready to take that spot and perform like she did. I mean, it's pretty blessed to find them. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that.
I have a question for Carolina. Did you have any doubt that you won the fight when the bell rang?
Że wątpliwości zawsze się pojawiają, ale no tu mój narożnik, mój trener krzyczał, że wygrałam, więc wierzyłam, że wygrałam.
I always have, she always has doubts when it's come to the decision, but her coach told her that she won, so she believed in that.
Thank you. My next question is for Shannon. Can you talk more about the decision for Herika to get the title match against Waterston?
Yeah, I think it's a good matchup. You know, I mean, she's undefeated. You know, we had the situation where she fell off this card. You know what? She wants that fight. She's competent. She's confident that she can win that fight. And I think that, you know, that's a great thing to have in someone that wants to challenge Michelle. Did you see her last time? All right. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of people stepping up and won that fight, right? But, you know, she's deserving. I think her record, you know, I mean, she went the distance with Claudia. I mean, Claudia's no joke, and it's a higher weight class, so do you have an argument that you don't think she, or just checking? Okay, just checking. But no, I think that she's very deserving. I think that's going to be a great fight. You know, we need to find people that challenge Michelle, because she's sitting at the top of the leaderboard, and you know, and she looked incredible last fight. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can we expect to see Hamasaki on a future card?
Yeah, definitely. Hamasaki's coming for Michelle too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this question's for Amber. You had a really, really close fight with Liz tonight, and it could have gone either way. What do you think was the difference between you getting that close split decision and not giving it?
You know, you can never tell with the judges, but I felt like I won in the striking aspect, you know, for, even off my back and standing, you know. So I beat her up, you know. I went in there and I just striking, really. She got those takedowns, so you never really know with the judges, but I won off the striking for sure, so.
For Carolina, once again. Hi. At the end of the fight, you were very emotional, very happy. Can you talk about some of the emotion that went into your win tonight?
Zawsze, kiedy wychodzę do walki, bardzo to przeżywam, są to bardzo pozytywne dla mnie emocje. I cieszę się po prostu, bo spełniają się moje marzenia i ciężko na to pracowałam. I to, że mogę walczyć, że mogę wyjść do walki, to dla mnie coś niesamowitego.
She's always very emotional about fighting and very emotional about stepping into the cage. It's every fight is fulfilling her dreams. She dreams about fighting, and so that's why she is very emotional both before and after the fight.
We heard someone calling your name from within the audience. Who was here supporting you tonight?
Rodzina mojej przyjaciółki, bo oni tam mieszkają w Chicago i przyjechali na mnie, nie będę chodziła na naszej przyjaciółki.
It's friends and family of my best friend Lydia. They live in Chicago, and they came from Chicago to support during the fight.
One more for Shannon. Shannon, every promotion has to eventually break out and get on the road. And this is your first time, this is Invicta's first time on the road. How do you feel that went?
Yeah, I think it went great, you know, considering, I think, you know, geez, when we don't get out on the road, we always have, you know, little things that go, you know, it's always a challenge in some aspect. But I think it went really well. You know, the community really embraced us. You know, we had a good experience. So, yeah, I have no complaints. And look at the card and look how the athletes, you know, competed. So I think it was a good card. I think everybody's happy. We've ate a lot of food. We've had a lot of fun. So, yeah, it was a good card.
Question for Barb. You dominated, you know, every round pretty decisively, but I noticed that you apologized to Pat in round 3. I was just wondering what that was for.
Pat wanted me to strike with her. He wanted me to push off and box with her a little bit more, and he kept telling me between rounds to quit forcing the clinch. He's like, let her come in and, you know, make her pay for it. Stop doing that and start boxing. And you know, I knew we were going back into it, so looking at him, I was like, sorry, this is happening again. Whoops.
I have a question for Barb, too. You know, just looking at some of the media reaction on Twitter and Facebook, a lot of times people seem to get, I guess, more so discouraged by the type of style that you fight with. I know that there's a lot of other fans who, you know, just really quickly jump to your defense and say, hey, that's what you have to do to pick up a win. Do you ever feel like you want to try a different sort of fight, or do you feel like this is your strength, you know how to grind your opponent and totally neutralize them, so that's what you're going to go with?
Well, I mean, I haven't had a grindy fight like that. I mean, I don't feel like I've had a grindy fight like that for a while. You know, I've had a lot of different fights. The last 2 were full striking. You know, I feel like there was a whole lot of boxing in the last 2. You know, in this fight, I felt like it's what I had to do. You know, I do feel like my timing was off tonight with my hands. I felt like, you know, like I just couldn't find my groove when it came to my boxing tonight. So, you know, I went to plan B, which was pushing her up against the cage and controlling her and just throwing the knees and the elbows and, you know, looking for it that way. She was very strong. She was a very strong opponent.
Hey, Barb. You mentioned in your brief post-fight interview that how she was more game than you expected. Can you talk about it in what ways?
No, you know, the footage I had seen on her, I think that she's improved her game. She came out with, I think, more striking. She had a weird rhythm about her that, for me, I think I had a hard time getting a read on her. You know, I had a hard time finding my rhythm because of her rhythm. You know, so she just, it was different than what I had in my head of how it was going to go. Mm-hmm.
You're super dominant at this weight. Is there anything that you learned in this fight? I'd love to work on that. Next time I'm in the gym, I want to work on that.
Yeah, I think my coaches are going to give me a whole list of things to work on after this one. Normally, Junior, he tells me that cornering me is like playing a video game where he just yells and I do. And I know that's not how this one went. I know that, as you guys saw, I was looking at Pat and Junior saying sorry. And, it was one of those fights that I couldn't, they couldn't push the buttons right, or I couldn't make my little character move the way that they were trying to get me to, it was just one of those nights,
I have a question for Barb. Can you talk about training with Kat Zingano and how it affected your performance in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of kicked off my camp, I guess, with the finish of her camp. It was really, really good to get out there and feel my strength against, another woman of her caliber. Shannon Sims was out there at the same time, who also fought on this card, so I got to work with Shannon a little bit too. I picked up quite a bit from her coaches out there too, some techniques that I implemented throughout my camp and things like that. So, just different technique, different feel, going against somebody like her really helps me gauge where I am. She's strong and extremely technical and mean, and to be able to hold my own against somebody like Kat to the best of my ability, that gives me some confidence, for my next fight.
My next question is for Raquel and Amber. You're both coming off of long layoffs. So can you talk about if that affected your performance tonight and what a win tonight means to you?
I don't, I'll answer the second question first. Winning tonight, obviously, I really needed it. But I feel like I've had a layoff, but I've been competing a lot. It's no secret. All my losses were by submission. So the last 2.5 years, all I did was put the gi on. I competed a lot. I did a lot of the IBJJF tournaments. And so just strictly the last 2.5 years, that's what I did. I had one fight, but I've been competing a lot. So I don't feel like not fighting all this time affected me, because I've still, I think competing, you deal with the same nerves, and, sometimes you're having 5 or 6 matches. I've had up to 9 matches in a day, at these tournaments. So it's dealing with all those emotions helped me a lot. It actually helped me more than it hurt me. It was a horrible first round, but, we'll work on that, being a better starter. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I got in the cage, so it probably affected me a little bit. I need to get in the groove again. I want to stay busy, so that probably had a little bit of effect, even though I think I did a good job. Winning was amazing. I'm happy I finally got to have my Invicta debut, and it meant the world.
This question is for Barb. Shannon just announced that Roxanne and Vanessa Porto will be fighting. Who would you rather rematch?
Either one, really. They're both really good fights, tough fights. It's been a lot longer since I fought Roxanne than it's been since I fought Porto. So I think, she's in the States now. She's training under John Wood. She's improved her game quite a bit. So I think, I expect her to be a completely different fighter than the one I fought the first time. I think that would be a more interesting fight for me. That said, Porto's tough. Getting through Porto is hard. A lot of girls haven't done it. So, it could very easily be Vanessa, So either one I would rematch gladly.
For Carolina, I think everyone who fights goes into a fight with a certain perception of their opponent, what the fight's going to be like. Did your perception of your fight with Mizuki, was it different than you expected, or did it turn out to be accurate?
Walczyła z Mizuki, ale sobie wizualizowałam tę walkę. i wyglądały no tak jak w ostatnim miesiącu jak się spodziewałam, że było bardzo ciężko, no to była najcięższa walka
Since she gets the news that she will fight Mizuki, every night she imagined that fight, and it was pretty more or less the same as she imagined, and she knew that it would be the toughest fight of her life, and it was.
For Raquel again. You had been training for another fight that fell through that I believe was at a higher weight class. Are you planning to stay at 135 from now on?
Yeah, the reason, I mean, I've been trying to get fights over the last, I fought last August, and since then I've had like 5 or 6 fights fought through. I want to stay at 35, but the only fight that I could get was at 45. She didn't want to cut to 35, and then, I mean, this one, it was late notice, and that was one of the things that I wanted to do was get bigger and stronger over the last couple of years, so I'm walking around at a higher weight, so it was going to be hard for me to make 35 in 8 days. So, but I definitely plan to get back to 35.
Okay, well, I know that they're all tired because they fought really hard tonight, so we'll wrap it up and just say once again, thank you very much for coming out and supporting us here at Invicta. All right.